guys are probably wondering what's been sitting in that big box. It's always been up against the wall for the past year or so. The one that says Samsung 55-inch 4K TV on it or something like that. But that's not what's in there. See, what's in there was an old Panasonic plasma that was given to me. One of the two-piece units with a separate tuner unit, like separate control unit, and just the plasma monitor. And today, I'm going to pull that thing out of the box and see if I can fix it. I'm going to check out my old Panasonic plasma display. I call this a display, not a TV, because it does not have a tuner in it. And I actually have a separate box with the tuner. This one was given to me a while ago. It was perched up against the wall there for the longest time. And I can actually see the wall now because I've been getting rid of some crap that's been sitting in the corner there for a while. I want to take a look at this set now, see if I can get this one going. If I can get this TV running, I think I'm going to mount this on a bracket, mount it up in my workshop here. So it might be a neat one because it has the remote. It has the remote control box with the tuner and all the inputs and stuff. There's just one cable that connects to this set. These were a very expensive set when they were new. It's got a huge frame around the picture, as you can see. It's very heavy. There's a lot in this. I haven't plugged it in, so I don't even know what it's doing. So let's turn it on and let's find out and see whether this one's even fixable or not. This set has a special cable to connect between the panel and the control box, which is here. Let's say it's been sitting here for a while. I'm going to get this thing connected and we'll see whether this thing's going to even turn on. And then I'll decide what I'm going to do with it. These ones are actually quite sought after, these sets, so I won't be scrapping it. If I get it working, I might. The guy that gave it to me, he's got all the mounting brackets and everything, so I'm sure he'll come over and give me a hand to mount it. And maybe we can mount it up on the wall and put it in place of one of my other sets are mounted on the back wall in the shop here. Not that I need a TV in here, but got two already. But it's a nice set, but I don't have the base for it, so it's gonna have to be wall mounted. I think I got a stand. I got a stand in here, a swivel stand that it could be mounted on. Then it would make it an impossible to carry set because it's already about, I think this thing's about 50 or 60 pounds as it is, maybe heavier. It was quite a beast to get it up on the bench here. Okay, power is connected to this thing. It's connected to the media player. The power button. I've got my color bar generator plugged into one of the inputs on the unit. I see nothing happening here. I see no lights or anything up. There's a switch on the side here. Okay, I heard a click. Damn, it works! Incredible. This thing actually is working. What more can I say? This set is working. I'm going to plug an HDMI cable into it and get some TV happening from my cable box here. It is quite the ordeal because I've got the media box plugged into a different outlet behind me because I don't have room to put it on the bench here and I don't want to put it on the screen. I don't want to break it, but that's great. HDMI, okay. Interesting, it might not accept that resolution. Let's see if it will auto detect. I think this thing's in 1080p and this TV might not accept. 1080p. I think this probably only accepts 1080i and 720p. I'll grab a cable box that's in 1080i We'll see how that one looks on it. Well, there you have it. It's displaying a picture from my cable box. It's actually looking quite nice. What I have found is that the HDMI input's not working correctly, or the tuner box may have an HDMI issue with it. But it only supports 480i and 1080i. When I gave it a 720 signal, I got the lines like I did with the 1080p. So this panel only supports 1080i and 480i and probably 480p. It doesn't support 720. If I try to put this into any other mode, like for example, if I take the remote control for the cable box here and try to select any other mode, I hope if I push the right button. Settings. Screen aspect ratio, if I try to select 720 for example, I start the test, I get a scrambled screen. And the same as 1080p, the only one that works is 1080i and standard definition, and that's also on the HDMI input. Just when I had the HDMI cable plugged in, if I just as much as breathed or moved the cable box whatsoever, then it just cut out. So I don't know whether the HDMI connector on the thing is foobarred, or whether it's the my cable that I used. I'll have to try a different cable. But no big deal, because it won't support 1080p anyway, so there's no real advantage to using HDMI, and it only has one input on this thing. But it does have 3 video inputs. It has an S video input, and it has 2 component inputs, and on component it's looking fine. If I get into the different modes, standard, cinema, auto, vivid. Auto is going to use a light sensor to adjust it. I've found the problem with this set. Well, I haven't found the problem with it yet, but I know where the problem is. The problem's in the media unit itself. The tuner is not working. So the other inputs work. If I go to video input, for example, if I go to component 1 and component 2 work. I've just got video 3 plugged into it right now. See, that works. And the component input works, but the tuner is not working. So I gotta have to pull apart the media box and see why it's not doing its job. Maybe I can get that fixed and get all the functions of the set working. So let's start on the media box. So here's the media box ready to come apart. Get the top off this thing, and we'll take a look inside this and see if maybe we got a bad cap or something in here. The downside, of course, to having this monster on my bench is I got no place to store my tools. I was just thinking of this TV here. I think I found the perfect use for it. I said it was the size of a table. Could make that into a nice table. Seriously though, let's take the top off this thing. I don't think there's any more screws in here. Let them all out. I should just pop off. Oh, maybe there's some screws in the back. I think there are. There's actually quite a lot in this thing. There's a lot more in this thing than I would have guessed. A couple fans in here to cool things. But yeah, there's a lot more stuff in here than I would have ever imagined inside just this. I mean, all this is just this media receiver, but it's got a tuner. It's got 2 tuners. It's got a tuner here. Looks like a second tuner over here. And power supply over here with its own fan, exhaust fan. So a lot of stuff in this tuner box. And there's going to be just as much stuff over in the panel, because your XY control, like your panel control and the sustain boards are in there, but we know that that's okay. We know the problem's in this one. Of course, as soon as I see these bloody things, I get nervous. This has got some surface mounted electrolytic caps in it. Anytime I see those things, I get nervous, because they're nothing but bad news, those. So this is the symptom. When I try to put an HDMI signal into it, it flashes on and off. So let's check this HDMI input. See whether it's maybe a bad connection on the input or something in that area of the HDMI board. It's got a great picture when it's got a picture, but as you can see, it's cutting in and out. We'll first try just putting some cleaner on the contacts themselves, just in case the connection's not good. After all, it's been sitting for the last year. So let's remove this board. For starters, oh, there's more fans under here too. This is going to be the digital input-output board here, and I think this is, I don't know what board this is. This is the, I guess this is a, no, it's the RF input board for sure, and it's got the RF switching. So it's got the RF switching can over here. This might be the digital tuner. It definitely has the cable card slot here for those cable systems that were compatible with the TVs of the day, where you could get a card from the cable company and you didn't have to have a cable box. That was the big thing back in the early 2000s, was to get rid of the cable box and put it in as part of the actual TV itself. And then you just got a cable card that you got from your cable provider, and that was the interface. So I want to look at some of these surface mounted craps in here, because Panasonic surface mounted craps are notorious for going bad, and this could be what's causing the problem with the digital input on this thing and the tuner. So let's just look at these and see how bad they are. I bet you they're bad. Yep, that's bad. That one's open. I bet you these are all going to be bad, every one of them. Yeah, see, these are all open, these caps. Every single one of these caps is open. Yeah, that one's open. It's mostly these small ones that are the ones that are 20 ohms. It's a 1 at 50, so a 1 at 63 should be no worse than 16. 1 at 35 should be no worse than 14. So these are measuring out of specs. Like a 250 volt would be closer to 20 ohms. So these ones here are quite bad. These small ones, 23, you see. But some of the bigger ones here, 0.2. So not all of them are bad, but there certainly are a few of them that I'm finding that are. I had to sharpen my probes a bit because I wasn't making a good connection. That's why I was getting such bad readings on so many, is that my probes themselves, the points had worn down a bit. So I just took a file and sharpened it a little bit, and now I can get in there and get a better connection. These little 1 microfarad ones are the ones that concern me more than anything else. How's this one look? Yeah, 0.1. See, that one's okay. That one looks like it might be open completely. No, 2.4. 2.4 for a 47 though. That's looking a little high. 47 should be, what is it? 2.4, 47. I would expect it to be more like about 1.2. So it's looking a little bit higher, but nothing. These ones here, these 1 microfarad ones are the ones that concern me more. I'm gonna look under this board too. There's more of them down here. So this one's the digital board. Again, it's full of these bloody craps. I mean caps. In likelihood, that's where the problem is. As I say, I don't know that I'm going to go that far because this is my set, and typically the only thing I'm ever going to be putting into this thing is going to be some component or composite video. I doubt whether I'll be putting any HDMI into it because where I'll be using it, there isn't really any HDMI video to plug in. But we'll just check these ones here. Yeah, 14. 16. If I find one that's like 90 or something, then it'll get changed out. But if they're measuring anywhere near being good, I'm not going to change them. I'm just looking for the one that might be the culprit. So if I find one that's way off spec, I'll change that one and see if it makes any difference. At 16 volts. That was quite high. It shouldn't be any worse than about 8, and that one's about 17, so that one's actually quite bad. I might change that one that was so high. 18, 17. These ones here, these ones are measuring a little bit up. I might change them. I don't have any surface mounted, so I'll just have to put conventional ones in there, but that shouldn't be a problem. They're just 10 volt. I should be able to lie some conventional ones in there, no problem. See, all the rest of them are way down in spec, but these two here look like they may be going bad. So look at those two, and let's look at some more of these ones down here and just see how they look. Okay, I've checked all the rest of them here. They all look to be okay, with the exception of the two that I tested over here, these two 10 microfarad ones over here. These ones here were measuring a little bit higher as we can go back and look at them again. They're measuring like 20. And a 10 microfarad at 16 volts should be 8 at the worst case 8. And these are coming up at 20. So I think I'm going to change these two, and we'll try it again. I'm not going to put a lot of effort into this thing because it's mine, and it's only a 720 panel, but it won't even receive a 720 or a 1080 signal. It only accepts a 480 or a 1080i. It won't accept the 1080p signal. So to say, I'm not going to put too much into this. But we'll change those two out and see if it makes a difference. I just noticed something. These are non-polarized capacitors, so they are going to have a different ESR rating than a regular electrolytic. And I don't have any non-polarized. And the only way to make it non-polarized is to put two of them back to back with the negatives together. So I won't be changing these ones on here just to try them. We'll check some of the other ones on the other boards. These ones all test good here, and see all the rest of them look okay. There's a few more surface mount on here. We'll check some of them and see if any of those are measuring out of spec, and go from there. But I'm not going to change these ones. I was going to just for the hell of it, but now I see the non-polarized. That's going to affect the ESR rating right there. So they probably are okay like the rest of them. Okay, I've gone through and I've checked all the other ones that I can get at here. I did not check the ones inside the shielded can here, because the only way to get at the few that are down in here is to take this whole board assembly apart, and not only take it apart but actually remove the board. There's all kinds of hardware that's got to come out to get at the board. There's actually, I think there's 2 boards in there that are sandwiched together. And the only way to get at that is to actually take this whole thing apart. You can't take the bottom off it, right? The top comes off, and then you got to take the first board out and then take the second board out to get to the components on the bottom side of it. Kind of a dumb design if you ask me. So I didn't get into that. It's getting to the point now where this is becoming more trouble than it's worth to try and get the HDMI port working properly. So I think I'm going to leave it at that, because whatever I use this for, if I even actually use it, I'm not going to need the HDMI input on it. I'm only going to need the AV inputs and the component inputs on the back. So being a limited resolution monitor, I don't think it's going to get a lot of use. But anyway, I'm going to put this thing back together and hopefully it still works. So let's start reassembling some of the boards that I took out. You never know, it could have been something loose that I've reseated by opening it up too. Great for playing video games on. The refresh rate off these plasmas is every bit as fast as a CRT. They work pretty good for playing games on. Anyway, I'm going to leave this at this. Everything seems to be working. Okay, I've got the TV, got everything back together. We'll do one last test. See if everything works on it. I'll turn it on.
Concussions.
You know, typical concussion issues, ringing in your ears, not all the time. Light bothers me. Sounds bother me. Anybody who's experienced a few concussions.
We'll try our other exactly input on here. Let me just try component and
sometimes you just get upset fast.
He and his partner.
And video. Also put it on component.
Dr. David Ryan is also part of the concussion clinic team. He says he's seen rule changes go a long way in concussion prevention in the past.
In hockey, for example, changing the body checking rules and eliminating from Pee Wee hockey has made a huge impact.
And the CEO of
the action suit failed, actually. It really wasn't a settlement. When it failed, they also failed to address prevention for head injuries.
Laval launched the petition.
Of the dozens of firefighters called to battle this blaze in Vancouver over the weekend, 2 crew members on site shared a special bond.
Last night was one of the more challenging fires you're going to find, because a building like this has a lot of renos and void spaces.
Battalion Chief Del Parno may be the boss to most members of his department, but he's just dad to this crew member, his son Matt following closely in his father's footsteps.
It's an honor, it's
okay, everything now seems to be working. All the inputs are working, component is working, video input is working, HDMI. I didn't try the RGB from my computer. and I haven't tried the tuner on it, but all the other inputs seem to be working, so I think that this thing is probably okay. And the only thing I can think of as to why the HDMI input wasn't working before was just taking it apart and reseating those plug-in connectors must have made a difference, because it wasn't working before, and now it is, and I didn't change any parts. So keep that in mind. If you've got something that is acting up like this, it may just be something that's not seated properly, and take it apart and put it back together and see what happens, because in this case, looks like it's got its working. There we go. All fixed.